get on the right frequency to just completely negate and completely shut down the present path that we're in. Now, you remember
10%.
10%. And I remember I said in one of my lectures and a couple of my things that I said, I don't live today. I'm just visiting here from another tomorrow. That's part of my mantra, and it's in my book, Cosmic Codex. Jimi Hendrix said the same thing. I don't live today. What does that mean? I said the tomorrow that I was in the mind and bliss to be a part of when I started the Metaphysical Underground. That tomorrow, when I started the Metaphysical Underground, it was to help people to see the other avenue to another tomorrow.
Yes.
Because the tomorrow that we were trajectory and the trajectory of the tomorrow that we were on was complete destruction and much earlier. And so what I did was I kept saying that to myself as I would leave the house, I would go to sleep. I don't live today. I'm only visiting here from another tomorrow. And the other tomorrow is the one that I'm helping to build along with maybe tens of thousands like yourself, that's helping to build a tomorrow that our children will inherit. And that inheritance is that's what I want to provide for my children and grandchildren. I want another tomorrow than the one that we see that we're heading straight to oblivion for. And so when I do my webinars or when I do my consultations, when I speak to people, I want them to understand that there is another path to a whole other destination. And the destination we're headed to right now is a gigantic cosmic brick wall of karma. And the karma is because we accepted our persecutors' karma.
We accepted it.
Yes, we've accepted it. We're participating in it. Look at what Kat was telling you about how trifling.
And you've been saying that for years.
Saying that these
years.
They are the scum. They don't care. You have to remember the people who are their mentors don't believe in an afterlife. They don't believe in a reward afterlife. They believe everything is here and now. That's the satanic. The satanic does not believe in an afterlife. They believe that this is the life. This is all there is. And there are gods that make sure that this is either heaven or hell, and they have to give you hell first before they can make their heaven. They keep telling you, you'll see it. They say that how when the time comes and the Messiah comes, every Khazar will have 100 slaves, and you're the slave. You're the goy. You're the people who are the cattle. This is what religion does to people's minds. And what you're looking at is a religious war. You're watching a religious war. This is one guy's God, one guy's idea of God against another guy's idea of God. This is how sick we've become. And they're the ones running Hollywood. They're the ones running everything, the banking system, everything. And we call them the deep state. And the deep state essentially has been doing this for the last 100 years. This is the plan for the last 100 years, even more, 150 years. And that's how far we're going back in the webinar. So you can understand the origins of how you have become here, how you've been born into this, to change it, to destroy this particular seed that was planted back then. I want soldiers in the mind first before you start picking up any kind of weapon. Because if you don't know what you're fighting for, it's going to fight you back. And that's what they're doing.
Right. You know, using Denzel Washington as an example, he's a movie star, and he's played in many movies. People love all his movies. One of the best actors, a lot of people say, of all time. One role that stands out though is a role where he played a bad guy, Training Day. I want to ask you, considering Earth is a movie that we come down here and we're all actors in this thing, do you think that the great Doctor Reverend Doctor Phil Valentine. Do you think was there a role where you was a bad guy the same way he was a bad
Oh
guy?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Was
oh
you
yeah.
like was you one of these parasitic elites at one time? Do you think?
No, I was a crazy son of a bitch. Yeah, yeah,
What are you talking about? You know exactly?
yeah. I know exactly. I did a past life regression with
Oh
my
shit.
medulla, and the past life regression. I did it also with I forgot the name of a fool's friend, Queen of Fool's friend, and in that past life regression, when I went into the meditation, I went in so deep, and what I was doing was looking out at something.
Uh-huh.
And it was a whole army of people, but it was not an army of people. There was an army of people, but there was an army of dead, and I was standing on a pile of dead people.
Wow.
And when I looked down, I had this sword with blood on it, and there was nothing but dead people and skulls on there. And it was like I'm looking through the eyes at what it is I was seeing. And somebody, said that, well, you were looking through the eyes of a demon and all that. No, it was me.
Whew.
I felt very close and personal. It was no walk-in. It was none of that. I
Whew.
became part of what it is that is in my mitochondria. Okay? And when I did that, I was standing there, bloodied, what do you call it? And I was a conqueror. I was a crazy son of a bitch who liked to kill.
Damn.
And so when I came out of it, there was sweat, tears, crazy.
Yeah.
And then I had some flashbacks on it. And ever since that happened, I was having dreams of that same picture. And when I would look out at the horizon, I would see the same thing would happen. There would be these people, it was these entities who fought. It was like at the end of a battle.
Yeah.
And then when I looked up, that's when everybody knelt. So
Mm.
I knew that I was leading some crazy thing that I was doing, and that was me in my egotistical space, probably, wanting to conquer, wanting to own, and so forth. And then I saw myself in another when I went into the chamber.
Uh-huh.
I saw myself in a temple in robes, and I watched water in front of me with floating flowers.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was probably tapping into certain things that I was back then, and I acted out. It's the same thing. And then when I read the story of Krishna and Arjuna,
Uh-huh.
and it was the Ayurveda, I was studying Ayurveda, and there was a time when Arjuna was standing with Krishna
Uh-huh.
inside of a kind of what do you call this thing that they draw? You go a chariot,
Mm-hmm.
and there was an army of tens of thousands facing his army of tens of thousands,
Mm-hmm.
and so Arjuna was really nervous, and Krishna was sitting next to him and saying, "What were you nervous about?" He says, I'm just afraid. My fear is coming." He says, "What are you afraid of? You've done this 1,000 times before."
Wow.
And he said, "What?" He said, "Yes." He said, "This is not new for you." He said, "Enjoy
Oh.
it." He said, "Enjoy it."
Oh.
Yeah. He said, "You come, you see." So that right, I left that alone, and I said, "Okay,
Oh.
uh, deep, right?"
Deep. Yeah. I'm glad I asked. Damn, you got some stories, Doc.
It's
Oh.
old time, man. I mean, when you're in your mid 70s, you're playing around with those numbers. You've gone through a lot. So
Yeah, man. But yeah, we got man. Listen, man. I can ask you a question for hours, man. You done been you had so many experiences.
yeah.
You done lived 10 lifetimes in one life, Doc.
Well, no, I think I was kind of reversing and trying to get back to a better state with all the lives that I had had.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and I don't know what I can say about my life that others would want to say, but I really don't care. I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed, the times when I was young and crazy and dangerous. I mean, I was pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
I've been out there. I've done everything. I've went into music, met all the superstars. I mean, I've run track and broke a record back in the day when I was young. I mean, I went through some really crazy things, and I'm very happy that I did. I laughed like hell my whole life. and I'm happy with the wives that I've had. I don't give, the wife that I have right now is my soulmate. She came back and we laugh like hell, or we laugh at the same things.
Yeah.
I enjoy my life. And anybody asks me if I want to do it over again, if I had to do this life over again, yeah, I'd do it.
Woo! Wow, man, that's something. That's something.
Mhm.
I want to talk about now, and time is just flying by talking to you. Damn, Doc, time is flying by talking to you. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna take a couple of questions from the chat. I'm not gonna have y'all come on here, but I'm gonna take about 3 questions from the chat. But let me ask you this, Doc.
Mhm.
Just studying you, studying Bobby Hemmett when I first got into this information, I'm like 19 years old. One of the first things that it allowed me to do, when you talked about the metaphysical underground, one of the names you gave this movement was the Dark Matter Think Tank.
Yes.
And one of the things that you and Bobby helped me to do is to make my relationship with darkness better.
Mhm.
My relationship with darkness, you're scared as a youngster. Meeting y'all and hearing those information, I developed a great relationship with darkness. And then in the last decade, 2 decades of my life, um, everything I ever wanted, I said this the other day, everything I ever wanted, Doc, came from the darkness.
Yeah.
The meditations, the visualizations, the silence, the everything, Doc. My children, my son, my wife, this
Mhm.
show, the questions I ask come from darkness.
Mhm. Yeah.
So talk to me about the importance of making our relationship with darkness better, because it's so scary because of all the bad things we hear about it. So
Mhm.
talk to us about strengthening our relationship with darkness, Doc.
You're strengthening your relationship with the origin of everything. Isn't that what the Bible says? Out of the darkness came the light.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
problem is we forgot we had to go back into the darkness and to understand the light.
right.
The light and the darkness are the same thing. The light, however, is a light that was actually made for the avatar and not the spirit. The problem is we get caught up in the avatar and forget that we can get back into the spark
Uh-huh.
that originated in the darkness.
Uh-huh.
So the pineal is the contact to the darkness.
Uh-huh.
That's where your meditation begins to give you all that download.
Right, right.
So when you are definitely living the understanding and understanding how metaphysics works, metaphysics is just understanding the language that the darkness speaks. You know everything about the light. The light
Yeah,
tells you every
yeah.
goddamn thing you want to think you want to know. You
I gotta
see?
write, yeah. I
So
gotta
the
write that
dark,
down.
it's all great.
Understanding the language that the dark metaphysics is understanding the language that the darkness speaks.
And that's you get hit it right on the head. So when you understand and understand how it works, you have the darkness within you. That's why the dark matter think. That's the word,
Think, yeah. Dark,
think tank.
yeah.
You see? And so understanding how the darkness works, you can use it for whatever purpose you want, because the darkness is about either you controlling it or it controlling you.
What happens
And
with it? Go ahead,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Ask your
What
question. I don't
you
want
said,
to.
you controlling it or it controlling you? What happens when it controls you?
What happens is the avatar, the physical body, is addicted to sensation.
Yes.
So the addiction drives certain people when they tap into the darkness. That's what the satanic energies are about. So
Oh.
the satanic energies is to enhance your addictions. And that's why the
Oh.
people like the Jay-Z's and all of these, they live in their life and they're doing all this kind of real ratchet stuff that their handlers gave them. So their handlers are actually feeding off of them and their dark matter energy by them participating with people whose dark matter energy is no way can't even tap into the darkness. They can only take the energy that emanates from the darkness and use it to control.
Hmm.
You
Interesting.
see, and that's the thing. So when people want to get aggrandized into the physical, they want to deal with the material world. The darkness is telling their avatar to
Mm-hmm.
do everything they can against universal law, even to create another kind of law that you will support and therefore give life to. So all of what we're doing now in the way that we looking at the people who are actually demeaning us, destroying our families, destroying our women, destroying our girls. When we look at what they're doing to undermine the human equation, they are using the words emanating from the darkness, the spiritual words emanating from the darkness to control. So they have a karma coming, but the reason why they don't get their karma right away, delay it, is by letting you know what they're getting ready to do. So it's on you to stop them. And this is what this webinar is about, to prepare you for everything they're going to get ready to do all the way up to 2050. Not just 30. 2030 is a pivotal point for the next 20 years.
You said something about 2030 earlier, Doc. So, and I don't know if I understand it right. So 2030, what we're doing now determines what does that have to do with 2030? What we're doing now.
2030 is when they're going to go full blast.
Okay.
By that time, they will have had you. They would outlaw gas. Say you have a gas powered car. They'll outlaw it, and they'll fine you every time. You would be taxed. They're going to take your land. They'll just go and take your land. They're going to talk about eminent domain and take your land. They're going to use the youth. They already have this thing that you saw with the border, with all these people coming in. Those weren't just immigrants coming in from Honduras and these places. They're coming from all over the world. They're being marched into the United States to take it down when the time comes. I spoke about this like 20 years ago. They were started back then. That's how they got into it. So you're going to start seeing. You have to understand they're doing in politics. They're doing what do you call that? Planned opposition or planned obsolescence? Not planned obsolescence. The Hegelian dialectic. In other words, they're dealing with opposites that look like they're opposites, but they're not opposite. They're actually controlled by one. So when you're dealing with Biden and Trump and everybody else, they're all working on with the same puppet master, and you'll see that in the webinar. You see, so they're getting ready to attack the ideal of what we set down for their ancestors back then, which is the so-called Constitution and the Great Law, the Ayanawashka. Thus, the Haudenosaunee is what we were giving as the Six Nation Confederacy of the North. And then we had another for the South. And of course, the European took it. Benjamin Franklin, Hamilton, and Washington, and all the rest of them. They sat at the feet of the Six Nation Confederacy. And that's where they started drawing up all their information. That's another book. That's another thing I put into Cosmic Codex. How white people were saying that without the black man, they would not have had and understood what a federation was, because they came from a monarchy, a despotic monarchy. What the hell do they know anything about constitutional law and the type of things they're dealing with? In fact, all of communism was based upon what they saw we, the so-called autochthonous American, how we lived is what they structured the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto from. So everything they are is what we were, and what they brought essentially. When you go into a place of peace, you don't think about war and the whole 9 yards. You have balanced your entire atmosphere. The next children are not coming up under a battlefield kind of energy. So that's when they moved in, and that's when we gave the authority of the land to the woman, because she's the earth. So when this devil came in and took over, he began marrying up the women to take the land. So a lot of what we put down, he came in and mutated, destroyed everything, took the 10 commandments, the whole Bible. All of that is a bric-a-brac. The Bible is a hodgepodge and bric-a-brac of the writings of great men and women put into this holier than thou book that's nothing more than universal truth. That has one theme: man is favored by God. He or she does something and falls out of favor of God, and then through that knowledge of falling out and going through the suffering, and definitely redeems himself, comes back into favor with God. That's the whole story of the Bible.
Right.
And the Bible ain't nothing, and so is the Quran. The Quran is a book of lessons of how to be a good human being. It's got nothing to do with God. And I told all my brothers and sisters and all my students know this. If you, in your little feeble mind, in your temporal finite mind, think that God is named Allah or Jesus or any of those names, that's a man giving you his interpretation of God. The only way you know God is if you name what the God is in with you. Because if you call upon a God that's given to you by your slave master, you're empowering him. If you go and you look at the Sanhedrin, if you look at the High Council for Islam, and if you go into the Vatican, how many black people you see up there? You don't see any of them. These are all the neo-Neanderthals who stole everything from you. If they didn't know spirit shit from Shinola when it came to the spirit. They took everything. They didn't bring a religion. They didn't bring an understanding of how to be with nature. What was religion? Religion in the earlier times was the way you acted, what you did to give honor and praises to nature mother and spirit father. It was the behavior that you did every day. It ain't that you go to the church and start shouting hallelujah and now I'm spiritual. You celebrated. You knew when to grow. You knew when to plant. You knew when to actually become fertile and to have children so that the society takes over in tears. But when this creature came out the caves, he just disrupted everything and made you forget everything, forgot the name of your God. That's the first thing he took away from you, the name of your God, the one that you were given by nature mother. When you listen to the breeze rustling through the trees, when you listen to the running water, and these sounds used to give you the idea of what God sounded like, and you named God after that. You didn't name God from somebody talking about Jesus. Who the heck is Jesus? I didn't know no Jesus. Jesus, what are you talking? The letter J wasn't actually introduced into the English lexicon until the 17th century. So who the hell is Jesus? So every time we take on our captors or we take on any of our oppressors' language, we take on their gods, we take on their mannerisms, what happens? Look around you. Okay, and if you think that Cardi B is somebody that needs to represent us to talk to the president, I think they were a good match. Cardi B and that imbecile that we have for a president. The two of them talking was like, Mutt and Jeff.
Oh man, Doc.
We have nothing but idiots up there, and that's what they want. They want idiots and whores. They want thugging. And I tell these young brothers and sisters, what happens when your people start talking about your music? Before, after Rakim and the brothers who are actually dealing with putting out some good music and actually taking hip hop to the place where your brain was talking to you at that stage. What happened? Right after that, when you're sitting there, you listen to them sitting in the barber shop, and they're sitting in the barber shop. What is it? War stories. It ain't about music. Listen to the content of the conversation of these people talking. Oh man, I'm so fascinated by the fact that you almost got shot. Oh, I'm so fascinated that when what's this big person that worked with Tupac? What's his name?
Suge Knight.
Suge Knight, when he walked in, man, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Who gives a shit about a thug? That's your hero today? Huh? That's what you're looking at? That's what you go ahead and tap into your iPhone for? To listen to the old war stories of people who came out the ghetto and brought it with them? No. I'm an old man sitting on the rocking chair watching you all fuck your life up. And you're giving your children over to these beasts because every time Cardi B talks about her wet wop, they're listening to that crazy shit, and your girls are going to turn into whores. You turn them off. You don't spend your money there. This is ridiculous. You let the beast tell you what music you should hear. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, I'm going off.
Hey, Doc. Hey, man. Listen, if tonight, if this is a glimpse of what we gonna get next Sunday, Doc, I'm once again we got almost 4,000 people in the chat. I'm gonna put. Well, I'm not gonna ask that. Let me ask. Because I gotta go show love to the people who. Let me see. Speak on. Let me see. Okay, let me ask this super chat question. Sorry for the super chat. I was focused on the show. I didn't see some of the super chats. Shout out to everybody who sent the super chat. This one right here, Doc. Is it better to meditate in silence? I was told frequencies, nature sounds, etc., can sometimes block your message.
Yeah, very good point. Sometimes you see, whenever you hear nature sounds, the first thing that does is comes up is pictures in your mind of what the sounds are. And then that interferes with you not making any kind of connection to what your thoughts would give you as reality. The thought itself is artificial. It's artificial because the brain creates it in order to store information. That's all it does. It gathers information. What we do with that information is where we either fail or succeed. Now, if you want to meditate, you have to be very mindful of the fact that sometimes if you put running water, the first thing we do is, wait, one or two things. You might want to go to the bathroom. You might find you guys pee because you're listening to running water. It's a suggestion. Or you might be listening to the running water and you all of a sudden a picture of a brook comes up. That's not what you want to be. You don't want to be sitting beside a brook unless that's what you want to do. But what you want to do is to go into the complete silence because you want to hear what's in your head. And your observer is one who wants to not listen to specific sounds. Sometimes you can actually start your meditation with a bowl. There's a bowl, what they call a Buddha bowl. And some of them are made with crystals. And it has a mallet that you can rub around the end and it gives you a beautiful sound. And that could be the precursor to your meditation to completely take you out of any specificities that your brain would want to lock onto. If you just, kind of allow the sound to be absorbed, then what it does is takes over the filter that you would have. In other words, whenever you hear a sound, the filter is putting a direction to what you're listening to and putting it into pictures for you. So what you want to do is to make sure that you're in a place where you're not hearing any sound except what's inside of your head as a replay. And you'll see how addicted you are to thoughts. Because once you break into thought, no longer having thoughts, your body starts feeling different because you're so addicted to what you've been thinking. You think you become, there's a craving to think. And that drives you crazy. If you lock a person into a room that's completely white, for instance, and it's just padded and there's nothing else but just white, and you leave him there for like a half hour, a day, 2 days, it'll drive him crazy. Mm-hmm. Because the brain has been accustomed to input, constant input for filing and for qualifying. So until you get past that type of addiction to thoughts, so your brain could start eating on what it is that the input that your senses are giving to you, then you're not going to have a true meditation. You'll have a me dictation, which is different.
Shit. Oh man. This next question, Doc, I don't really understand it. It says speak on Side Bay connection to Hunapku. Do you know what that
Hunapku? The Hunapku, are you talking about the Hunapku of the ancient the Olmec or the Tutankhamun? I don't know. Saibe? I'm not sure what that is, my beloved brother. Technique twin?
Yeah, technique twin.
Hunapku is what you're looking at when you see the if you ever been to Mexico and you see this thing with its tongue hanging out in the middle. That's that thing with the tongue is the Hunab Ku. And it's actually the fire within. That is the how can I say it? Because a lot of people are not going to know what I'm talking about when this person wants a specific set of information. You need to join my school.
Mm.
Okay, the Hunabku essentially is the universe as it speaks. That's why the tongue is out. The tongue is what gives us the ability to form words. So the Hunabku, when you get into the meditation, when you talk about spiritual universal meditation, that's what I was talking about, the darkness speaking to you. The Hunabku. Now, it wasn't spelt like that. It's HUNAB-KU.
Mm.
Okay.
You know, the you talking about that the Omex and that picture with the tongue
Yeah.
made me think about and you said the fire within. It made me think about Michael Jordan or those who
Yeah.
stick their tongue out when they're celebrating.
Yeah. Now
That
he's celebrating. If you watch Michael, when he's getting ready to do something
you're right.
fantastic, the tongue goes out.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
is that's some fire energy within him, or what
Well,
is that?
he's speaking. He has he has a twin personality when he was on the court. He
Mm-hmm.
could become somebody else.
Mm.
Now he's a piece of shit, to tell you the lie, in real life. To tell
In
you,
real life, yeah. His real
yeah,
life,
he
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, but when he gets on there, that part of him becomes a warrior. He would have probably been one of the people that I fought next to.
Whew.
Kind of person he is.
Right, right.
He's lethal. He's lethal in his thinking. And if he was like a warrior,
Uh-huh.
he'd be lethal.
Uh.
He'd be lethal. He wouldn't have any remorse.
Amazing. All right. Somebody and shout out to once again everybody who gave a super chat, Cheryl and everybody else. I appreciate it. Everybody who donated tonight. Let
Beautiful.
me ask this one. I have a question about putting the dead in diamonds
Ha!
because you use the energy to tap into the ancestors.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how they do that with. I mean, of course, you can. It's like a copy, a more modernized copy of the ancient Kemetic funerary rites,
Mm-hmm.
because they used to preserve their people for the next life, for the afterlife. If you put them in a diamond, you're actually end up giving them their last destination in the physical flesh, because what you've done is you've trapped their energy. That's why people take the ashes and they just scatter it into nature,
Mm-hmm.
so that the person is freed. Actually, the idea is that that carbon, that the essence, is freed to go back into nature, to come back through nature. But if you put them into a diamond, you're actually solidifying them and not allowing that passage, to me, because I know what a diamond is. It's nothing more than carbon to another level. And so if you freeze that carbon, it's like you now creating an avatar around that energy. In other words, your physical body would be the diamond of your soul, so to speak. So if you take if I burn this down to its ashes and then do something to compress it into a diamond, I have not allowed it to go back into nature. I've given his body a final place that it's going to be forever.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
They want to know, Doc, that this is a common question with your webinars. Will there be a replay for the webinar?